Life is a story. It's a collection of people and places, moments and memories, ideas and spaces. All great stories must begin somewhere. Ours begins where the air is clear and where ideas, energy, and people do life together. Each chapter of our story is shaped by those we choose to do life with. Life in all its splendor. We find worship and wonder in the abundant beauty of the vibrant Pacific Northwest. And savor the warmth and energy of a small college town. This is our place, a place that fuels our search for answers to life's big questions. What do I believe? Where do I belong? Who will I become? Here, we discover and offer our gifts to the world, crossing hallways, states, and continents, with hearts and eyes tuned to the needs around us. Here, we celebrate the true, the beautiful, the divine. These are my people, and this is the place we gather. What's done together means more than what's done alone. Swerving, curving, scaling, soaring, exploring, performing, creating, innovating. Love and friendship here, sometimes unexpectedly. Here, we find ourselves known, seen, understood, welcomed. The belonging we yearn for, we freely give. Here, in the middle of nowhere, we find fellow travelers on the road to everywhere. This is life together. This is life.
Hello and welcome. I hope you enjoyed watching one of my favorite videos about WallaWallaU University. I think it does a great job of representing who we are as a campus. My name is Trevor Congleton, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Marketing and Enrollment Services. As you know, we are here today to talk about how families and students utilize financial aid in order to help pay for college. Today's presentation is designed to help you understand the financial aid process and how financial aid can help you become a part of the WallaWallaU University family. One of the best parts of my job is watching our students become part of that family as they discover their career paths and develop their characters. While they are here, they're prepared not only for successful careers, but they're also prepared for a life of learning, a life of service to others, and most importantly, a life of faith in God. We know that right now, one of the biggest questions you're facing is how to pay for college, and we want to help address all your questions in this presentation because the WallaWallaU University experience is one of a kind, and we believe that it is well worth the investment. Not only do our students receive a top-notch education, they spend their college years in an environment that is conducive to a Christian lifestyle and have many intentional opportunities to engage in service to others. We provide a supportive, faith-friendly environment for our students as they begin to stand on their own in their spiritual journey. One of the ways we support our students spiritually, emotionally, and academically is by matching all of our new freshmen with mentors. These are Christian individuals who share WallaWallaU University's values and goals and who meet with them regularly to check in to see how things are going and to guide them through that first year away from home. So let's get to the topic at hand, how to pay for college. To help guide us in this discussion, I've asked Doug Taylor, our Associate Director of Student Financial Services at WallaWallaU University, and Melissa Ray, our Director for Recruitment, to join us. At any time during this presentation, if you have a question, you can ask it by typing it in the chat box. We'll get to all of your questions at the end of this presentation, which should take us about 30 minutes. If you'd like to download the slides that we'll be covering in this presentation, you can download them through the link in the panel on the right side of your screen. Doug and Melissa, let me turn it over to you and let's get started.
Hi everyone, thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you about the financial aid process. Okay Doug, let's start at the beginning. How much does it cost to attend WallaWallaU University?
Well, the figures you see on the screen are this year's expenses for a full-time student. In addition to the tuition, room, and board, there are variable expenses for things like books and miscellaneous expenses. Surprisingly, when you factor in all expenses, including room and board, as well as the great scholarship program we have here at WallaWallaU University, it can actually cost less than other four-year colleges. We've also calculated that for most students, it's cheaper to go 4 years to WallaWallaU University than it is to start at a community college, live at home for 2 years, and then transfer to the university later.
And there are several factors that play into that. We have lower housing and cafeteria costs. We have a great scholarship program, which we'll talk more about in a few minutes. Washington State has a great grant program for its residents, and Washington State has one of the highest minimum wage rates in the U.S., so our students are able to earn more money while they're here. We also have a great on-campus work program, and we've been proactive about encouraging off-campus employers to hire our students, so there's lots of opportunities for students to find work. The majority of our students have a job while they're in school, and most of those are on campus. This benefits students both financially and academically. We've studied the GPAs of students who work on campus, off campus, and don't work at all, and those who work on campus show slightly higher GPA than the rest. And because of Washington State's higher than average minimum wage laws, we estimate that students working 15 hours a week will earn over $2,000 more per school year than a student with the same amount of hours in a state that only pays federal minimum wage. When you come to visit campus, you'll have the opportunity to talk with potential employers and learn more about the student employment opportunities and what positions might be available for you. A lot of our new students find their job during Jumpstart freshman orientation or the first week of classes. So if you get to September and you don't have a job yet, don't panic, it's totally normal.
In addition to student employment, there's also financial aid available to help students and parents pay for college. This can include grants, scholarships, and loans. Grants are usually awarded based on financial need, but don't have to be repaid. Scholarships are usually awarded based on some kind of an achievement or a criteria other than need, and also do not have to be repaid. Loans are usually low interest rates and are offered either through WallaWallaU University or the federal government. We also expect that most of our students will work while they're in school and contribute $3,000 to $4,000 towards their college expenses from both their school year earnings and their summer savings.
Doug, can you walk us through the steps to apply for aid?
Sure. The first step is to apply for an FSA ID from the federal government. Students, you're going to need one. Parents, if you've applied for one before, maybe for another child, you will not need a new one. But if you don't already have one, you will need to apply for one as well. The easiest place to apply for the FSA ID is at fsaid.ed.gov. So, to make sure I'm clear about this, the student is going to need to have their own FSA ID, and the parent will need to have their own FSA ID. The student, you're going to use your same FSA ID each year. You may be using that for signing certain federal documents. And then, as I said, the parent's going to have their ID, that they're going to use that ID each year, and that same ID for all of their children. You can import your tax information directly into the FAFSA application, and this just makes the FAFSA more accurate and easier to complete. And this can also save the family time if the government selects your FAFSA for verification. Each year the government selects about a third of the FAFSAs for verification and requires the schools to get additional information. If you use the IRS retrieval option and didn't change the numbers, they consider that information already verified. If you don't use the IRS retrieval option and you're selected for verification, the only other option is to get a tax transcript from the IRS, we're no longer allowed to use photocopies of tax papers. So use that data retrieval option for the FAFSA. It can shorten the process from a few weeks to just a few days. The second step is to complete the free application for federal student aid, which is known as the FAFSA. I've been mentioning that. Every school in the U.S. uses the same application. Now note the word free. If you accidentally go to FAFSA.com, you're going to get a pay website. So make sure you're on the free website. When you're filling out the form, be sure to include the university school code, which is 003799. So that FAFSA form, it's a federal form. It collects the demographic and financial information about both the student and the family. It asks a lot of questions, but don't be intimidated. If you just take it question by question, it's not that complicated. The form is limited, though, to U.S. citizens or permanent residents of the U.S. And then you're going to use that FSA ID that I talked about in step 1. You'll use that to sign the FAFSA application. Now for step 3, some schools, and WallaWallaU University is one of those schools, require their own institutional financial aid application to be submitted. So our institutional aid application is available on the university website. This form only takes about 5 minutes to complete. And one thing to note about this process, it is the student that needs to apply and be accepted as a WallaWallaU University student before the financial aid award will be calculated.
A lot of students have already applied for next school year. However, if you or your student has not yet applied, they can do so at apply.wallawalla.edu, where they'll create an application account and submit their application electronically to us. Once the student has applied, they'll need to send us a copy of their academic transcript in order for us to make an admissions decision. Many colleges and universities have a deadline for applying for aid. At WWU, students need to apply for financial aid by April 30 in order to qualify for maximum aid. And since it takes a few days for the federal government to process the FAFSA, I do not recommend waiting until April 25 to start the process in hopes that you'll be done and have it processed by April 30. While April 30 is the priority deadline, you should really start the process now. The sooner you complete the aid paperwork, the more aid could be available to you.
If you feel that the FAFSA doesn't take into account your unique circumstances, it may be possible for the school to do a professional judgment to reduce your expected contribution. Some of the things that a school could consider: does the family have tuition expenses for other children in the family who are in elementary or secondary school? Does your income vary widely from year to year? Maybe we need to look at averaging the family's income over 3 to 5 years. Do you have unusual medical or dental expenses that were not covered by insurance? We may be able to take those into consideration in your financial aid application. Maybe your circumstances have changed since you fill out the FAFSA. Maybe a parent lost his or her job, or perhaps there was a divorce or remarriage in the family. If there is a divorce in the family, the FAFSA instruction says that the parent that the student lived with the most during the last 12 months, that's the parent who should provide the information on the FAFSA. If the student did not live with either parent or lived with both parents equally, then it's the parent that provided the most financial support in the last 12 months. If both parents provided equal amounts, then you just keep going back 12 months until one parent provided more financial support than the other. Occasionally we'll have a situation where a family is maintaining 2 households. Mom and dad are happily married, but for some reason, and usually it's for work, one parent has to live and maintain a household in another location. Perhaps a parent is going to school and is seeking a degree, so this is more than just a parent taking an occasional class. They need to be accepted as a degree-seeking student. Sometimes we work with families that are taking care of the parents' parents, or maybe they have unusual dependent care expenses. Perhaps you had a one-time capital gain on the sale of an asset, we may be able to exclude that income from that capital gain. Assets actually play a very small role in determining the parent's contribution. The government does not look at the value of your home. It does take into account the age of the older parent, knowing that an older parent needs to be saving for retirement. So, if you disagree with the FAFSA results, give us a call and we can work through this with you. It may be possible to reduce your expected contribution. Melissa, you mentioned a little bit about our scholarship program earlier, but would you break that down on how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. We award merit scholarships to high school students who are coming in with a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher. The higher their GPA, the larger their potential scholarship. We also require that our students maintain that 3.0 GPA while they're at WallaWallaU University in order to keep those scholarships. This isn't based on your final high school transcript. It's based on the most recent transcript at the time they're admitted. So it could be based on a student's 6-semester transcript if they apply for admissions at the end of their junior year of high school. They are locked in at that time for that scholarship amount. We will never drop it below that award. However, if their GPA does increase after that initial transcript we received, we're more than happy to increase their scholarship to the next level that they're eligible for, as long as we have that updated transcript. It's definitely in the interest of the student and the family to get accepted early and get that scholarship locked in. We also look at a student's ACT and SAT test scores. Whichever gives them the highest scholarship, their GPA, their ACT test, or their SAT test, that's the scholarship they'll receive. If a student comes to us from outside of Oregon or Washington, we'll also give them an out-of-area grant. In addition to that, we like to reward students who have been in leadership positions their junior or senior year in high school, and we can award up to $1,500 based on those leadership positions. When the student applies for admission to the university, they can tell us each leadership position they've held junior and senior year. If they take additional leadership positions after the time they apply, they just need to let us know and we can increase that scholarship up to the maximum of $1,500.
So we're talking up to $60,000 over 4 years as a student who receives our top merit scholarship, the $2,500 out-of-area grant, and the maximum leadership award. That's equivalent to getting over 1.5 years of expenses covered for free.
We also have scholarships for National Merit students. To qualify for the National Merit Scholarships, students take a test in October or early November of their junior year in high school. They get one chance to take this test, and you can check with your high school or academy to see if your student did this. A National Merit Commended student is eligible for $1,000 each year in addition to our academic achievement scholarships. A semifinalist is eligible for an additional $1,500 each year. A finalist will get full tuition their first 2 years and half tuition their second 2 years with us. This would be in place of the academic achievement scholarship. We expect great things from our National Merit students, so we ask them to maintain a 3.8 GPA to renew this scholarship each year. One thing to note about these scholarships for entering freshmen is that if you go to another school first and then decide to come to WallaWallaU University, even if you've earned as little as 1 credit other than during a summer session, you're considered a transfer student with us and you're no longer eligible for freshman scholarships. Each year we have several students that transfer to WallaWallaU University after attending another university just fall quarter. We love having these students join our WallaWallaU family, but some of them have lost more than $40,000 in scholarships because they were no longer considered first-time freshmen. We want students to start with us and stay with us, so we're very upfront about our scholarship program. Students who attend another college or university before or after starting school at WallaWallaU University, other than during a summer session, forfeit those freshman scholarships.
Let's talk about the need-based aid at WallaWallaU University. When you fill out the FAFSA that I talked about earlier, you will be applying for several programs of aid. So let's look first at the grant programs. The maximum federal Pell Grant program this year is over $6,000, and we have not heard yet if this is changing for next school year. The NPUC grant, this one is funded by the annual offering for Walla Walla University. It can give a student up to $900, but the student must apply by April 30 to be eligible for this grant. Depending on the student's financial need and other resources, the Walla Walla University grant can be several $1,000s. This year I saw several that were over $15,000. Most needy Pell eligible students can also get up to $1,800 on a federal supplemental educational opportunity grant. We do run out of those funds, so that one's another one that it's important to apply early if you want to be considered for that grant program. Eligible students who are Washington State residents and DACA students are eligible for this grant. The College Bound Scholarship is for Washington State residents who signed a pledge back in 7th or 8th grade that they were going to graduate from high school or from a homeschool program with at least a 2.0 GPA. They promised not to get convicted of a felony and that they would go on to college in Washington State. Now, there is a financial need component in that, but it can be worth over $6,000 per year. Now, no student is eligible for all of these programs, but I just want students and parents to realize that there is a lot of financial aid available for students. There are also loan programs available. Walla Walla University has a loan program. Freshmen can also borrow up to $5,500 on the federal direct loan program. It's called direct because you're borrowing directly from the federal government. The government may pay some of the interest on the loan while the student is in school, depending on the FAFSA information. Just about everyone who's eligible to fill out the FAFSA is eligible for the direct loan. When Bill Gates' kids started college, they were eligible to take out the direct loan, although they probably were not eligible for the interest subsidy. For additional financial aid, there's the Parent Plus loan program that parents can take out. They can borrow the difference between the cost of attendance and the financial aid that the student has been awarded. There's no limit to how much a parent can borrow over their lifetime, and then the loan is set up on a 10-year repayment plan, and interest and loan fees apply. And for the direct and the plus loan, the government does deduct those loan processing fees before they send the money to Walla Walla University. While we encourage students to avoid loans if they can, don't let the news stories about student loans scare you. Most of those stories you hear are extreme cases rather than a typical student loan. Over the last 4 years, the average graduating senior left Walla Walla University with about $35,000 to $37,000 in loans on average, which was actually less than a few years ago when more students were borrowing and our average loan was approaching $38,000. Our students are borrowing around the national average. Student loans are really an investment in yourself. Having the college degree gives you the higher earning potential. As we saw in the last recession, people with college degrees had a much lower unemployment rate. You can tell that Walla Walla University students are able to manage their student loans by looking at our default rates. When you compare our students' default rates with the national average, you'll see that our graduates are able to pay back their loans. And this shows that most of our students are taking out a manageable student loan debt load. Our default rates are about 1/5 of the national average. So we're proud of the fact that our students take responsibility for repaying their loans. And as I also mentioned, a low default rate is an indicator that our students are borrowing a reasonable and affordable amount when it's compared to their future earnings.
Now, when you compare the cost of different schools, you want to be sure that you're comparing apples to apples. Make sure that you're looking at total cost and not just tuition expense. Add in key items like the school's required fees. Room and cafeteria costs can also vary widely, and so do other fees. So our room and cafeteria costs are consistently lower than most private schools and considerably lower than the state schools. And don't forget to calculate the cost of travel for times like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and spring breaks. As we said before, it's our financial aid program that can make the difference in the affordability of a Christian education. So when you're looking at the total cost of each school, subtract the amount of aid you receive at each institution to see what the out-of-pocket expense for your family will be. Doug, do you have any other resources you can recommend as students and their parents are looking at how to pay for college?
Yes, now is the best time to be applying for scholarships for next year. When you're searching for outside scholarships, the first thing I recommend you do is make a list of the scholarships you find. So you want to write down when the application is usually available, what the deadline is for that scholarship, how much is a typical scholarship, are there any requirements, such as you need an essay, or maybe they need an academic transcript. Where did you find the information? So write down a website address if that's where you got it. And then you want to keep going back to that list to make sure you meet those deadlines. I encourage people to talk to your local high school guidance counselor. When people create scholarships, they usually notify the public schools, but they forget to notify private schools. So your academy may not know about some scholarships through no fault of their own. Ask other places that might know about scholarships. Check with your local Chamber of Commerce to see if there are any local scholarships. If a local bank has a trust department, ask there. Check for community foundations. The best scholarships to apply for are the ones that have a limited pool of applicants. For example, a local electrical co-op here in the Walla Walla Valley gives out 3 scholarships each year for $1,000, $1,500, but you have to be a customer to be eligible to apply. So a small pool of applicants makes it much more likely that those applicants are going to get the scholarship. Check if you're a member of a credit union, check with the credit union and see if they give out scholarships just to your credit union members and children of members. Again, that small pool of applicants increases your chances of winning. And don't just go after the big dollar amounts. A lot of people don't apply for the smaller scholarship, and so that increases your odds of winning. We had a student who ended up working in our office who came her freshman year with 7 outside scholarships totaling $3,700. The largest was $1,000, most are around $500, but $3,700 is a nice bonus. Another one of our student workers mentioned that his friends laughed at him for applying for a $500 scholarship. He told us that he spent about 2 hours on the application and won the scholarship. And he said that $250 an hour was not bad wages. The best free website we've found for scholarship searches is fastweb.com. Definitely do not pay for a scholarship search. Almost all paid scholarship searches are either fraud or they give you the same information that you would have received from a free scholarship search. Google is a great source to find discipline-specific scholarships. So if you have a unique skill or a special interest, there may be a special scholarship out there just for you. And also Google things like your city and state with the word scholarships, or your county and state with the word scholarships. On the scholarship page on the university website, you'll see a section just for Washington State residents, and we have links to other scholarship searches. For example, there's a great scholarship database for the state of Oregon that we have linked on our website. For Washington State residents, if you're pursuing a degree in science, technology, engineering, math, or healthcare, and that includes nursing, there's a special scholarship, and over 4 years, that one could be worth $17,500. And then don't forget to consider other sources that may be able to contribute. Can your home church help? The university tries to match up to $2,000 of a home church's donation if the student shows financial need according to the federal formula. Now, it needs to be money coming from the church congregation and not the parents or grandparents donating the money hoping to get a match. Summer work, summer savings. Some students save $4,000 or $5,000 from their summer work. How about other relatives? Maybe grandparents want to help, so don't be afraid to ask.
We believe that Christian education is one of the most valuable investments you can make. It challenges students academically, it connects them socially, it prepares them for a successful career, and it strengthens them spiritually, all within the supportive community of faith. We work hard to make sure Christian education is accessible and affordable, and God comes through time and time again to help us make that possible. At the bottom of the slide is a link to a web page that brings together useful information on paying for college, and there are some calculators there as well as lots of helpful resources. We encourage students to visit WallaWallaU University, and you can bring your parents with you if you'd like. We'll provide a campus tour that's fun and informative, led by one of our staff or students. You'll have a chance to meet with professors in your chosen department, talk to people in admissions and student financial services, and talk to someone in student employment. You can schedule a visit online with us at wallawalla.edu/visit. Parents, we want to make sure we have the most current information for you so we can stay in touch with you and answer any questions you have. Now, once a student is accepted to WallaWallaU University, they'll be able to access our My WWU system, which is our student information system. Make sure they check their to-do list. On that list, they'll see 3 items waiting. Click on each one and it will give instructions on how to complete the task. And if you have any questions on how to log in or how to complete the task, you can contact computer support, and their direct number is 509-527-2317. Students, first you'll want to make sure you and your parents' contact information is correct, especially the student cell phone number and the student and parent email addresses. We promise we're not going to spam you with emails or texts. We just want to keep you in the loop with important reminders and deadlines. Second, be sure you give permission for us to send automated text messages to your cell phone. We're not texting frequently, we just want to make sure you don't miss those critical deadlines. Third, you'll want to set up parent permissions so we know who we should and who we should not talk to. Students, when you get to college, you're in control of your information, and we won't share your grades with your parents unless you provide permission. Parents, we want your email on file so that you can receive our parent newsletter. It contains information to help you know what your students should be doing at each stage of the enrollment process and other helpful tips from parents who've gone through this process already. We also like to email parents about tasks that need to be taken care of if the student maybe hasn't taken care of them already. Now, Trevor, before you open this up for questions, can you go over the list of dates that students and parents should keep in mind as they approach the first day of college?
As Doug mentioned earlier, if you haven't already done your taxes for 2019, you will want to file those now. Once those are processed, you can retrieve the IRS information into your FAFSA. After that, we have 2 university days tentatively planned in the spring, one in March and one in April, for you to come check out our campus. Since we are constantly adjusting to the realities of living in a COVID-19 world, we are closely monitoring the situation in the hopes of being able to still offer our traditional U-Days experience. Should we be able to offer U-Days and you come to it, you'll be able to talk to teachers, meet other students, and see what life would be like as a student at WallaWallaU University. You'll be able to tour campus, attend classes, participate in some events that we have planned just for you, win prizes, and more. This is a great time for students to learn about our individualized and comprehensive financial aid program. You can get on the mailing list now to find out when we officially announce the dates for U-Days and open the registration. Just head over to wallawalla.edu/U-Days, letter U, all one word, and leave your contact information. Since you can't visit campus in person right now, we'd still love, like Melissa mentioned earlier, for you to come for a virtual visit. These individual virtual visits are customized specifically to what you want to learn about WallaWallaU University. You'll have the opportunity to meet with our faculty and staff who work in the areas you are interested in, talk to some of our students, go on a virtual tour of campus, as well as meet with admissions officers and learn all about getting a job on campus. Okay, other important dates to keep in mind as you plan for next year. April 30 is our priority deadline for financial aid. That's also the deadline for paying your enrollment fee. The enrollment fee is a $200 and it is non-refundable. It tells us you plan to be here. If you pay that by April 30th and you enroll for fall quarter, you will get half of that $200 back. You can't be placed into your classes or reserve your room in the residence hall until this fee is paid. So we encourage you to pay it as soon as you're accepted and know you want to be at WWU in the fall. Also, if you want to know what your financial aid is before you pay this fee, which is probably a good idea, be sure to apply for financial aid early enough so that you have received your award letter and can make an informed decision. Jumpstart then begins on September 19th, which this is an important week of orientation to help you get acquainted with campus and is required for all new students. By Wednesday, September 22nd, you should have paid your down payment, completed any necessary paperwork for student loans, and have signed your financial clearance online. As we get close to that date, you'll be hearing from Student Financial Services on just what you need to do. And then on September 27, you begin your college education at WallaWallaU University. On the screen now are some important phone numbers for how to reach us. Jot these down or don't download the PDF of this presentation and give us a call. We're here to help you make a WallaWallaU University education a reality for you. Okay, let's start answering the questions that have been submitted throughout the presentation. While we're talking about this, you can continue to ask your questions using the chat box, and we'll answer them in the order that we've received them. Let's see, Doug, can a student apply for financial aid before they have been accepted? I think you're on mute still.
Thank you. I kept myself on mute there while you were talking. So the answer is yes and no. Students can apply and will receive their information, but until the student has been accepted for admission to the university, we're not going to actually process the application. So it basically sits in an electronic file just waiting for your acceptance. But then as soon as we receive word that you've been accepted, then we begin processing the application. So even if you're not sure about your financial situation, be sure and send your FAFSA results to the university. Let us put together a financial plan. It'll be personalized for you for your situation.
Great. Let's see, next question, Doug. How likely am I to receive financial aid? Is it worth going through the application process?
I think so. 90% of our applicants receive, well, actually 90% of all of our students qualify for some form of financial aid. And last year we awarded over $46 million in financial aid. So that was an average award of about $25,000 on average per student.
That's a pretty big number. Let's see. Next question is, how soon can a student apply for admissions, and do they need to wait until the middle of their senior year of high school? I'm going to go ahead and take that one since I work in the recruitment side. We will accept students based on their 6th semester transcript from high school. So if you or your student have completed their junior year, you're eligible to apply for admission. This definitely has an advantage. If you have a great GPA on that 6th semester transcript, we will lock your scholarship at that level. If your GPA slides a little bit your senior year, because hopefully you're taking hard classes, your scholarship is still locked in on that higher GPA. And if your GPA goes up, then we will increase that scholarship to that new level by the end of your senior year. So it's definitely in your advantage to apply for admission as soon as you're eligible. Next question, Doug, once a student's financial aid package has been awarded, how do you notify the student?
We send out an award letter, and then with that award letter, we include a personalized financial plan. So that includes our best estimate of your expenses on campus. We estimate what your payments are going to be on that plan. And our payment plans are really kind of simple. We take your costs, we subtract the financial aid that has been awarded, and then we divide that into 3 equal payments. The first payment is due the Wednesday before the start of classes. The next 2 payments follow about a month apart. And then when you begin the next quarter, you pay anything that's remaining from the prior quarter, plus then the 1/3 down payment for the new quarter. And again, that's due the Wednesday before the start of classes.
Great, thanks, Doug. Let's see, next question. If a student starts at WWU, then goes to another school, do they still get their scholarship when they return? So maybe they transferred to another school and then wanted to come back.
If they go someplace else in the summer, that's okay. But if they go to another school and take even 1 credit other than during the summer after they graduate from high school, so if they're taking classes while they're in high school, that's not an issue. But if they're taking classes outside of WallaWallaU University after they graduate from high school, not in the summer, they lose that freshman scholarship. We want students to come here as freshmen. We want them to stay their entire 4 years with us.
And just a quick follow-up on that one. So if they start at WallaWallaU University, then go to another school for several terms, not in the summer, and then transfer back to WallaWallaU University, can they have a transfer scholarship since they lost their freshman scholarship?
No, they're considered a returning student, not a transfer student. So they've lost their eligibility for scholarships. Now they can still apply for need-based financial aid, but they don't get their scholarships back. Like I just said, we want students to start with us and we want students to stay with us.
Quick question too, Doug, since we're talking about scholarships. Can you talk a little bit about the Second Chance Scholarship that we're doing just for winter and spring quarter of this year?
So this is for students who graduated in May or June of 2020. And because of COVID-19, they decided to stay home and take or go to some other school. They really wanted to be at WallaWallaU University, but they just decided to stay closer to home. We're giving them a second chance to come to WallaWallaU. The scholarship is not as good as their freshman, but it's much better than the transfer scholarship. It's right kind of in the middle there. So it gives you a second chance. You can still, if you're eligible for the out of area grant, you can still have that. You could have the remaining portion of the leadership scholarship. So if you came winter quarter, then you could get the winter and spring quarter portions of the leadership scholarship. I don't have the dollar amounts in front of me, Trevor. Do you remember what the dollar amounts are?
I can find them really quick because I have that one.
The top one was $9,000,
and then 8,500 for a 3.5 to 3.74, and then a 3.25 to 3.49 is 7,500, and a 3.0 to 3.24 is 6,250.
Okay, and they're on our website. If you go to wallawalla.edu/scholarships, that'll take you to our scholarship page, and then you can see the freshman scholarships, and then right underneath that is the Second Chance Scholarship.
And that's where I got that information that I just read. The perfect place to go to look for it. Let's see, Doug, another question is, here's one from a parent, it looks like. A friend of mine has a student at WallaWallaU University, but they said they can't see their grades even though they pay the bill. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's federal law. As soon as the student starts college, the student has total control over who gets their statement, who sees and talks to us about finances, and who gets to know about their grades. Now, like we said earlier, parents, you can tell the student that you're not going to pay the down payment for the next quarter until they show you their grades. And parents, I do encourage you to ask to see those grades.
It's a good plan for sure. Let's see. Another one is the FAFSA application required to apply for financial aid from the university?
It's required for any of the need-based financial aid. It's required if you're wanting any of the student loans that we talked about, whether it's the parent loan or the direct loan or the university loan. The FAFSA is not required for the freshman scholarships. So to get the achievement scholarship, out of area scholarship, leadership scholarship, you do not have to complete the FAFSA. Those are not based on financial need. But as I said, any of the need-based financial aid, the Pell Grant, the Washington College Grant, supplemental grant, all of those kind of grants that are based on financial need, you must have the FAFSA completed.
Great, thanks, Doug. Let's see. I think you touched on this a little bit, but maybe you can just go over it again really quick. So are tuition fees due at the start of each quarter, or can they be divided up throughout the year or quarter?
If you're an international student, you do have to pay at the beginning of the quarter. We don't consider Canadian international for this purpose. So if you're a U.S. citizen, Canadian citizen, or a U.S. permanent resident, though, we can do payment plans where we divide it into 3 equal payments for the quarter. So 1/3 of it being due at the time of financial clearance, which is that Wednesday before the start of classes, 1/3 approximately a month later, and then the final third a month after that. So we're taking, again, the cost of attendance, so your tuition, room and board, any other expenses you think you're going to have on campus. We subtract out your financial aid, and then whatever's left, that's what we divide into 3 equal payments.
Great, thanks, Doug. Let's see. Another question asks, is it true that WWU has one of the strongest work programs and that students can make more working there than at a lot of other private U's?
Melissa talked on that briefly, but I'm just going to expand that. I did some calculation just yesterday on that. that with the new minimum wage that's coming in on January 1, 2021, it's going up to $13.69. A student who works 15 hours a week during just the school year, they're going to earn about $3,000 to $3,100 more than if you compare that to a student who's working at the federal minimum wage of $7.25 at a lot of states in the U.S. So you want to be checking out what the wage rates are at other schools, and then compare that difference. But yes, we have a very strong work program. We don't say we guarantee employment. We used to, and because of some legal issues now, we just say we try really, really, really hard to make sure every student has a job who wants a job.
All right, great. Thanks for that information, Doug. Let's see, next question. Doug, do you happen to know what WWU's retention rate is for freshmen?
Oh, I have seen that number, and I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head. Do you have that one on the top of your head?
I believe it's, oh man, it was high this last year. I want to say, was it like the high 70s? Like,
well, it was higher than that. I want to say. I was thinking it was in the low 80s is what I was thinking.
Low 80s? That was a higher one than we've had before, right?
Yeah, and we've seen them as high as, I want to say, about 85, 86%. But that really shows that the freshmen who come here, that's the retention rate of how many then make it to their sophomore year. It shows students really like it here, that most of them are returning. And that's really high compared to a lot of other schools.
I just had somebody that mentioned that it was 81% last year.
Oh, okay.
So that's helpful. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see. Next one is, Doug, can you talk about the church match program? Somebody had a question about church match, what that is.
Okay, Melissa talked a bit about that, or I did. I've already forgotten which of us talked about it. But if a congregation will give money to help the student, and if the student is eligible for financial aid, so we're using that standard federal formula for looking for financial need, we will match then dollar for dollar what a church gives up to a maximum of $2,000. But it really needs to be coming from the congregation. We don't want the parents trying to launder the money through the church and try to get a match there. So it's coming from the church. We do ask the church pastor and the treasurer or clerk to confirm that, yes, that money is coming from the church itself. But and then that match then goes on the quarter that we're receiving the money from the church. And we have a lot of students that their congregations help them that way.
It's a great program for sure. Let's see. It looks like we're getting near to the end of the questions. So if you have a question that we haven't answered yet, please feel free to put it into the chat box and we'll keep answering them as we go. This next question asks, what happens after the April 30th enrollment deadline if a student is still unsure of where they want to attend? So basically, that April 30th deadline is the early bird enrollment fee deadline, which allows you to get $100 of it back in the fall when you're in school. If you wait until after the April 30th deadline to pay that, we will keep all $200, and it actually goes to student services. So it actually goes right back into their work. I know that before they've bought mattresses with that money, use it to help kind of like raise the bar for the student experience. And so that's what that money is used for. But if you pay it after April 30th, then we keep all the $200, and you can't get into your classes or sign up for a residence hall room until that point and have them reserved. And it looks like that is the last of the questions. Thank you everyone for watching this presentation. I'd like to thank both Melissa Ray and Doug Taylor for being with us this evening. And I hope that you found this presentation helpful and that you feel more prepared to take the next steps towards your college adventure. We'd love to have you at WallaWallaU University, and if a WallaWallaU University education is in God's plan for your life, we will do everything we can to make it work for you. You have our promise and our prayers. We'd also love to have your feedback about today's presentation. When we sign off, please take a moment to take a brief survey at wallawalla.edu/comment. We would really like to know what you thought of tonight's presentation, and it actually helps us do quite a bit in refining what kind of stuff that we offer. If you think of something that you forgot to ask, please make sure that you give us a call at 800-541-8900 or email us at info@wallawalla.edu. We We look forward to you being a part of our family this next fall quarter and hope you have a wonderful evening. Take care.